As we get into Kenya's biggest conversation for the second hour, we already have our guest in the studio. And in the name of Kipruto Arap Kirwa, he's here with us today. And we're looking at a number of things as we get into the conversation. Cabinet nominations, cabinet vetting, that has all been taking place. Wanakira, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
Happy New Year.
It is true. We've not seen each other this year.
Yeah, that's true.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you.
They normally ask then, how is the year taking you?
Well, I think it's too early to make a very clear analysis of the year. But of course, we are doing land preparation in Kitale with the hope that we are going to start planting at the advent of the rains on the 22nd of March or thereabout. And everything seems to be moving well.
We know that the rains will start on the 22nd of March.
Yeah, they do it around our place. It's the equinox. So usually about the 20th, you should actually be doing dry planting. By 22nd, the rains will come. And as you know, in 1 week that you lose after the onset of the rains, you lose 10% of expected yields. That's the way it is.
Wow.
And that's the rule.
It's like a science. Well, it is a science, I guess.
It is a science. Thank you.
One should go to Kitale.
I'm telling you.
The place is beautiful.
I hear.
Beautiful.
I hear it's beautiful.
I visited it. That's why I'm speaking thus.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm extending my invitation to you, especially around May, when everything is green.
You should be careful. We'll take you up on the invitation. We'll take you up on the invitation.
No, that as long as you remind me, I'll be willing.
Sawa. And you're in the hot seat this morning. And before we get into some of these hot matters, let's talk about skills, because we know there's a whole vetting program going on right now. CT is going to welcome you, the Proverbs from Uganda this week.
Yes, it's a landlocked country in East Africa, neighbored by Kenya in the east, Sudan in the north, DRC in the west, Rwanda and TZ. An interesting country, this one. The features that I liked about it, the one which actually caught my attention were two.
Yes.
Bird watching, the variety of birds that you find in Uganda because of the rich forests that they have. They're not like us who just cut everything in sight. They tend to keep their trees. Yes, as we do. Everything must be charcoal at some point or the other. And then we don't replace it. But that's us. But
that's true. In
addition to that, they have this amazing feat. They have lions, yes, but these are tree climbing lions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Something else that we need to know about Uganda, while in Kenya 80% of our land is semi-arid, in Uganda it's almost the other way around.
Yes, it is.
80% of the land is fertile.
Arable.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So, and that is why even during the darkest and bleakest times, the country could feed itself.
That's it.
Something we seem to have a problem with, but that's a discussion for another day. Yes. The proverb. A dog with a bone in its mouth cannot bite you.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. And I think we can have a lot of parallels even in our political situation. Some of the individuals who are biting the government the other day, when they were given small positions in government, they have kept quiet. Or they are singing praises for the government.
There's something in their mouth.
There's something in their mouth, regardless of the value.
He said regardless of the
value, because at times it's a bone that is dry, but because there's still some remnants of some feeling of nyama, they think there is a lot of meat inside.
Or some smell of the soup.
So at times when somebody is making a lot of noise, give him something to keep him busy.
And he'll shut up. Well, at least temporarily.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a good place to jump off into this conversation, Kirwa, this morning. And here we are, yet again, going through cabinet nominations, the vetting process. A parliamentary select committee sat over the last couple of days, and then I think today we're starting to see some, decisions coming out of that. We gave the, illusion of a bicycle that's wrapped in wrapping paper around the wheels and the handlebars. You can see what it is, but you don't. But somebody's still asking you to guess what is, behind the wrapping. And that's how we kind of feel with cabinet nominations now, and then into the appointment process. Even though we do see sometimes the hard questions being asked, we're almost sure that these folks who've been nominated will be given the green light. Let's get your introductory insights into currently what's happening, what it actually does mean for the political process with the most recent nominations we've seen.
You know, the whole process starts with the decimation of institutional capacity of various aspects of our country. Of course, you know the president at the beginning of time, where the beginning of time is after elections 2022. He made sure that he emasculated all the political parties and brought them under one roof. And after that, of course, he extended this emasculation into Parliament, ensuring that Parliament does not have the capacity to think on its own feet or even make decisions at variance with the position that it takes. The third position was, of course, to bring in various political entities that we used to refer to as dynasties, starting with the Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and of course a visit to Shaweri. All those is a way of trying to galvanize everything around one person. And therefore, if there is any nomination, it's just a charade. It is not that I'm doubting the capacity of the guys who are being nominated as ministers. They are very brilliant people, they are very good people. But the nomination is as good as the decision that has been taken by the president. Of course, in the old constitutional dispensation, the president used to announce, appoint, and swear in any member of our society that he felt could fit the bill of being a member of the cabinet. And thereafter, you join the cabinet, or you join your colleagues in parliament, and therefore that is where your capacity used to be tested. But in the new constitutional dispensation, it is very clear that the president, if he respected the other institutions, would also be careful on who he chooses. He would also be careful on the kind of background of the individuals he has chosen, and also make sure that those individuals fit not only the requirements, but also the critical mass of their own capacity, their integrity, and their ability to perform.
Waziri, I hear you saying essentially that the president has taken what he can from each and every entity that we speak of, whether it's political parties, whether it is parliament, whether it is cabinet, and essentially run roughshod and used those for his own personal gain. Whether we're talking about an election coming in 2 years, whether we're talking about the perception of power, you're essentially saying that he has usurped power from every possible place to his advantage.
Yes, that's exactly what he has done. Remember when there was this Rigathi Gachagua impeachment, they moved with a lot of speed. Almost at night, when does government printer close? At night, were Tangula gazettes that he has already been impeached, and the same night, Amason Kingi gazettes in the Senate that there's going to be a meeting at 9:30 or 9 o'clock thereabout for purposes of dealing with that particular issue. An issue which should have taken about 60 days or even 72 days. It took less than 14 days to dispense with. And on Saturday, even the judiciary was involved in what I could call kangaroo court. When some of these things are done, in the full glare of the public, and we keep quiet, I feel we have had enough of this regime. We may not say many things, but what we need to tell the President, William Ruto, is to realize that he's here today. He will not be there tomorrow. And some of the things he's doing, they will follow him all the way to his place in Sigei or wherever he will be. That's my worry.
President William Ruto preceded you in the agriculture docket.
You succeeded.
Succeeded you
yes.
in the agriculture docket.
Yes.
Now, when one looks at the way he has gone about managing his politics, there's something to admire there. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. when somebody understands the possible roadblocks he can encounter and circumvents them, it means he has forethought. We may not like the outcome. We may even see that what is being done will be harmful, but he has forethought it. But it also tells you something else about those who have been in positions of power and within government, that the allure of power in government is something that the political class in this particular country cannot withstand. It's the one thing that when it is offered to you, you forget everything else that you previously talked about as being sacrosanct, and then you justify the position you've then taken. Am I speaking out of turn, or am I saying something that we see every day?
Yes, we are saying something that we see, and it is informed by a number of factors, one of which we have not institutionalized various apparatus of state. We've allowed them to be around the personality, or we have made it convenient to take it around the community. That's why even the appointments that the president has done, he has been visiting the leaders of those regions, and therefore he allows him to make a decision on who is to be appointed. Whether it's directly the 4 or 3 appointees or 5 that come from Mount Kenya was with tacit approval of President Uhuru Kenyatta, anybody can guess. Because that is the way I see it. We seem to be taking a social problem, a problem that is supposed to be financial governance, and we give a political solution. That is my worry.
And is it really a solution? Because a political step is taken, and we are the ones who baptize it as a solution. Because even if you amalgamate people from different parties and under the name of what are we calling a national
broad-based.
That's the word. Broad-based government. We've had a broad-based government right from the onset of independence. When Kadu folded and we had Kanu, that was broad-based. When the colonialists sort of like said they were going away and we got self-rule and so forth, these are handshakes we've had all along the way. With bless you, when we said, look, this single party thing isn't working for us, and let's get into multipartyism. That again was an understanding. Now, but with all this understanding, it appears that it's like a poison chalice. Once someone has had a taste of what it means to be in a position of power, the worst thing that can happen is for them to be out of it. So the moment there is a sign, an indication, a come hither sign, and it's like there's a scramble. And it is very shocking if someone actually thinks, and to understand it, you only need to look at people who had power and suddenly don't have it. The change is monumental. It's a complete shift.
Yes, true.
What then does it say of political leadership? Or what does it say about our politics and how we have determined we must practice it? And does it give anyone who is studying it hope that politics in Kenya represent a certain degree of moral rectitude, or it gives, surely should moral rectitude feature in politics? Yes, it should. Or does it give anybody the indication that there are things which, when they are said by people in leadership, that you can expect them to be done? Because our lived experience is that the complete opposite happens. Yes.
Well, I'm happy nowadays that with the advent of the public taking that space, the official opposition is now the public, is no longer in the political realm. Having taken that space, even some of us, really all of us are potential job seekers. Given the fact that
that is a very honest statement. Yes.
But at times we resist because we fear what would be the avalanche of problems visiting us. Of course, I would easily be tempted when you see there is a appointee for Ghana, High Commissioner to Ghana, has refused. Then I say, now with my master's in international studies, this is a job I can take so easily, and I'll be so happy. But I say, what will they say in that space? So I think that for me, that is a positive note, that the public is outraged enough that yes, if this is your stand, Kirwa, that stand, we must see it sustainably. And we hope everybody else will be held to account.
And but when you talk about what the repercussions will be, they call it kusalimiwa on the internet, and everyone seems to be afraid of it, other than those who are actually going for these positions. But that aside, we talk about the nomination of cabinet secretaries into office, and we know the process that is in the constitution. But it appears as though the decision has already been made by the appointing authority. That means whatever happens in Parliament is just a PR exercise. Therefore, how do we, as the official opposition, as the Republic, make sure that the law is actually followed?
Which opposition are you referring to, Dennis?
The public.
Yeah.
The public. Because the opposition that does exist,
the public isn't
power.
quite the public, is it? Because the public also have people they follow.
Oh, yeah.
The public have people they listen to.
Yes.
And they listen to very intently. So when we say public, which public are we speaking about?
Yeah.
You see, and what does it say when you support? Okay, why don't we just look at live examples?
Okay.
ODM donates a few people to the cabinet.
So-called experts.
Yeah, okay, they're donated. And we hear them speaking, we do understand the experts. As to what exactly the experts say now, that's something you can debate at great length. Okay, but they're experts, okay? So we're all broad-based. Then ODM goes into double speak. ODM is actually not in the government. ODM has donated, that's the word I'm using, so that we can stabilize the government given the problems that we're having. But ODM remains independent, okay?
That's what they say.
Okay. Then comes in two people who are in Jubilee, because William Kabogo was not in Jubilee. He had his own party. Tuendelee mbele tuko pamoja, something of that sort. Okay. Now, that's his own independent party. But every one of those come from the mountain. Okay. So what are we saying? And yet, we have an immediate former deputy president who is spitting fire and speaking brimstone daily about the misdeeds of the government that just a few months ago he was part of.
Okay. So then what was your question, Dennis?
My question is, with all these matters to do with the appointment, there is a process in the Constitution which should be vetting, which should go to Parliament. But Parliament appears as though they've also ceded power because they're being controlled. Their television sets, the guy with the remote is changing the channels as he wishes. So in terms of these appointments meeting the requisite standards as enshrined in the law, how do we as Kenyans, those complaining of who need the change, should make sure that we achieve that which is in the Constitution?
I think, Dennis, we need to improve on building institutions instead of building individuals. Even listening to the questions that were asked to all those nominees, for me, they are irrelevant. Because you see, like my good friend Mutai Kagwe, somebody I have a lot of respect for, it's not about carrying coffee on your bag or being in 4K club that you can also deal with issues of agriculture. You do not even have to have a lot of experience in agriculture. You just need to have a helicopter view of the ministry to realize that in that ministry there are technical people. And in that technical aspect of those people, there are those who are researchers, there are those who are extension officers, there are those who are dealing with land development, there are those who are soil scientists, and there are also those who in livestock production and various other aspects. Apart from that, there is also the component of human resource capacity building in those ministries. And what you need to do is to have that helicopter view and to see how you can make use of every piece of human resource in the ministry. Allow me just to give a small example. When I was the Minister for Agriculture, 2003, 2008, when we went there, we realized that the ministry had very low morale. And I tried to understand what was going on. Then I realized the main challenge was the human resource component. There were some people who had been in the same job group for 13 years. And yet it's supposed to be every 2 years or 3 years, you are reviewed and you have a chance to move from one job group to the other. It may not be a lot of money. It may be 2,000 shillings, but that's a lot of money for a civil servant. And also the fact that you are not in the same grade for 13 years. When that was done by DPM and everybody, some of the officers literally cried tears of joy because we have unbottled what they believed they were going to retire on the same job group. What did it do? By the time we are doing the first performance contracting by the government of the Republic of Kenya, my ministry was number one because we did not give them more money. We just unbottled what we felt was the main problem. So at times when you ask questions about how suitable are you to run that particular ministry, then we give mundane answers that I used to have a laptop in 1991. Ministry of ICT has nothing to do with laptop.
Yes.
Technology has moved on, and we need to deal with issues of how do we have the complement that is required and make use of the people in that particular ministry. In any ministry, the first priority is the people, the officers working in those ministries.
I want to, it seems as though the deeper fissures here of these issues, when we talk about these nominations being of a heavy political nature,
yes,
when we talk about the possibility of power having been usurped from Parliament in terms of this being a rubber stamping exercise, because I mean, you know, a dog is a dog, call it anything else, but it's what it is. The individuals who are being taken through this process, who are being asked these questions and then having to give these answers of, you know, my mother had a poultry and I don't know what else, and then also being asked to give, you know, their net worth. They go through, the truth be told, they go through a rigorous process, being asked questions that truthfully don't matter. Do you think they as individuals realize the responsibility then that is on their shoulders to deliver a development agenda off the back of something that is purely political?
My worry is that it is what the French call fait accompli. By the time somebody is nominated by the president, unless the president changes his mind midstream, like that of Stella Soy, the performance is not really anything that is to go by. I've seen some of them who should actually be rejected by the committee, even in the first round of half an hour, because they don't seem to know a bit about any of the ministries. But there you are, they go through, then they become part of public ridicule, because the president does not believe any other institution ought to operate independent of him. He believes he knows everything, is an expert in every field of study. You remember the other day when he was talking about vaccination in West Pokot, he said, me as a scientist. You know, a scientist is not all-round scientist. You are either a scientist in land development, a scientist keen to issues of livestock diseases, but you cannot be a scientist who knows everything. And you cannot be telling us about vaccination, which is like marubaini, that is for all diseases. It must be specific to disease. Is it anthrax? It is ECF? Or what kind of disease are you going to tell us about vaccination? So the president has misled the public. The other day you were saying, as a father, we are all fathers. And when you don't want your children to be abducted. And now he's spending issues on the character of the children. Well, we know the character of the children is a reflection of society. You cannot start lambasting parents that your children should not be doing caricature. When technology came, technology is to be used for all manner of things, including, if you are not happy with the president, you depict him the way you see him. So the president should not be worried that the children have negative character. The children are a mirror of our society. You remember there were certain awkward moments, even including the time of President Mwai Kibaki. But there was no caricature, not because there was no technology. People respected him. And if anything went amiss, they knew that is a slip of the tongue or there is a problem that we understand. But the current president, because even young people know that he's a liar. The other day I went to another office. Then I told, have we met before?
Yes.
The child said, no, but you look familiar. He told me, Uongo. So I got actually shocked because being a Kalenjin, I thought now we are lambasted on the same brush that we lie. Of course, eventually I knew I had met the person somewhere. I don't want to say the name.
Because I think now we're getting into some of these issues whereby you need to actually have, a spotlight on them, and to say that if we look at cabinet and the way in which it is, constituted, these individuals have a duty to deliver development agenda for government. But if now what you're saying is that, essentially these nominations are political in nature, trying to get as much in terms of support on your side, then what happens to Kenya in terms of its development agenda if you're being selected to do something purely politically? Former Agriculture Minister Kipruto Arap Kirwa is our guest this hour, and we're looking at some of these issues when it comes to nominations of cabinet, their vetting and the eventual appointment. What does it portend for the country? And I really have to ask this question as we are going this. I mean, alluded to it before. But, if the development of the nation and the development of governance and leadership is top of the agenda, which it should be, one would assume that that's what it was, how then do you find a nexus between what you want to do politically and what you should do from a governance point of view? We know that it's very difficult to divide or to separate these positions from the politics of it all, but can you have a balance? Can you strike a balance? And if individuals are being chosen purely for political alignments, how do you expect they will fulfill the agenda?
I think the main problem is that when the president was campaigning to get his first term in office, he spent a lot of time looking for strategies to make sure that he wins the election. And some of the promises he made were beyond the capacity of any government to perform.
Such as?
Issues like he was going to do a number of things within 100 days. He was going to do all these within this particular period. Then he also realized that the resources were not as much as he had already promised the public. So in the process, he was forced to break some of the promises or make some of the statements that were not in tandem with the reality of the day. The other issue that I still believe that we can still advise him is when a president gives an order, he should have been able to check all the other aspects of it so that his orders flow smoothly. Otherwise, he should not talk unless he is sure the processes are right. So in the process, the public lost trust in the presidency and in him as a person. And when they lost trust, so all these measures he's been trying to do is to try to regain the trust that the people have lost in him. So I sympathize with him, but it's not about sympathy. It's about what is it that he can do. What he can do is to be open to the public that Kenyans, I promised you 1, 2, 3. I'm only able to deliver 1, 2. And Kenyans will forgive him. Why? Because the resources are not as much as I thought. For every 100 shillings I collect, 70 shillings will go towards paying the debt. And we're only left with 30 shillings to manage all the affairs of the nation. And that's why, while I had said I was not going to do borrowing externally, I've had to borrow because I cannot make ends meet. It needs to be more truthful than bring people and crowd the situation in a way that some of these people are just there for the next 2 years. Some of them will move back to the opposition or to the government that is going to be formed after this election, or some of them will actually ditch him. I can see there are going to be a lot of dynamics, just like the year 2002, whereas those who are in government for the greatest time left the government on the eve of elections, and that's how Kanu lost in the year 2002. Yeah.
Now, Waziri, when you talk about, you mentioned something to do with the people who are in these offices, and it is a political exercise.
Yeah.
But at the back of it, as Ndu alludes, is all about performance and delivering to the people of the Republic.
Yes.
And here we've asked, in terms of government using its resources and identifying people who are better placed to deliver the government agenda. That does not seem to be the case, because it is you come so that I get support, but in terms of delivery for the Kenyans, we do not see that. What would be the best way to go around this in making sure that the people in these offices are there to deliver and not play politics?
Well, I think the first thing could have been to have the right people in the right places. You needed somebody who is well heeled in issues of public service. Kibaki survived with Mudhaura, having, of course, started with Dr. Saliko's K for the first 6 months, 2003. And in June of that year, he appointed Francis Mudhaura as head of public service. He stayed with him for the entire period that he served. What was unique about Mudhaura? You as a minister, if you went to see Mudhaura, you take a very nice notebook, a black book, write everything that you've requested, and in the intervening period, he will be able to tell you this has been done, this cannot be done because of 1, 2, 3, so that the government is in communication. Now, when you bring somebody who was dealing with issues of procurement, he thinks everything is about procuring people into government. He doesn't realize that it's about delivery of services. So the whole problem is crowded by the fact that head of public service today is somebody who thinks that because they're in government, everybody must listen to them. But Mudhaura was a humble public servant who is a diplomat by any stretch of imagination, who also understood government. And therefore he knew the role of a minister, the role of various institutions of government, and how to manage and coordinate. Because head of public service basically is the coordinator of public service. And he needs to take the pulse rate of every department. For example, if they wanted to appoint somebody like Muga, and is an officer in my ministry, they would inform me that we want to elevate him to a certain position, and we need somebody in that particular position he has been holding. And they will tell you before they announce. And they tell you, okay, do you have any individuals or any names to suggest? You suggest the names. By the time Muga is being elevated, somebody else of my choice or somebody we've agreed with, the head of public service. But today, even ministers, and you've heard of them, that cassette notices of even directors or various parastatals are done in State House. They just see names. They don't know some of those people. Remember, the position in the Constitution and in various statutes, the president appoints chairman of parastatals. I had 27 parastatals in my ministry. And of the 27, I give 2 names. They tell me give 2 names. I give that of Dennis and Muga. Then the president picks one, which means these are my appointees.
Yes.
Then all the directors, we sit down with my assistant ministers, with the officers in the ministry. We look at the CVs of various individuals. Then we appoint 5 or 7, whatever is the case, for parastatals that the minister has the authority to appoint.
And that is not happening now?
It's not happening.
Okay.
And today, the other thing that I feel the president needs to be assisted, and even in future, if he was to be part of any government, is to say these advisors to the president, whether it's on economy or anything, should be at the level of the minister. So that they advise the minister for the time being in charge of that particular portfolio. So that the minister goes to see the president to advise the president once he has been fully advised. Because the principal advisor to the president is the vice president or the deputy president today. And every minister is advisor to the president insofar as that docket is concerned. Now, if you have 2 advisors advising you on the Ministry of Agriculture, then I arrive in the afternoon, I'm tired, I've come from Kitale, and I come to you and you say you know more than I do just because you sat with your advisors in the morning. And these advisors don't know the practical reality on the ground. When I joined the Ministry of Agriculture, I had this notion, because I was coming from the street, that the officers there are lazy, they are not serious. After 8 weeks, I realized that they are they're highly trained, because in my ministry at that time, we had 90 PhDs in various parastatals and those directly in the ministry, and people with master's degrees and various other qualifications. Then I realized I have a huge human resource in the ministry. I need to spend more time in the ministry. And as if that was not enough, they gave me all the people who are seen to be Kanu, whether it was a former provincial commissioner of Eastern, district commissioners. Then I realized I have a human resource here which can assist me run the ministry. So we used to sit down every Tuesday with 5 of us, the PS, Director of Agriculture, my 2 assistant ministers, and we funnel out Then the technical people will deal with the issues, give us feedback for the next Tuesday. That's how to run a ministry. Allow the minister to be flexible, and if he's intelligent or she is intelligent enough, they will be able to give you better results than you as a president trying to run every ministry from State House. You don't have that capacity.
Do I hear you to be saying that what we see is a situation where the entire administration of government has been politicized?
Yes.
So essentially, whatever it is that our ministries or the ministries that exist within the executive, that they cannot actually function because of the political nature, one, of the appointments and the political expectations.
Yeah, that's the whole problem. And the ministers are trying to do catch-up. To do catch-up. What does the president know about this issue that I don't know? And yet, in the past, you go to brief the president and you seek permission on issues that are beyond you. Issues like funding. If you have a program and you feel this is the best for the country, you go brief him. Then Kibaki, as usual, used to not give you prescription. He would ask you questions. And in the process of answering those questions, you get the answers for the problems that you took to him. So you take the problem to him, you come back with solutions, and those solutions are based on your own brief and the questions you answered.
Why would one want to control 22 different dockets of cabinet, for example, from State House?
You know, the mistake we make is that we make businessmen politicians. And if somebody is a businessman, you would wonder whether there is business in his docket, whether there is business in his docket. So he wants to run everything from the table because he's basically a businessman. He's not a politician. He's not a leader.
But would you then not argue also that our politics is actually, our entire political structure is a business structure? Because start with the political parties, they are owned by individuals.
Yes. Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. That's why I was saying we need to build institutions. Instead of allowing a party to be owned by an individual or to be seen to be associated with certain community where the individual comes from, we should build them as institutions that have the capacity to say, Muga, we have had enough of you. The way ANC has done in South Africa.
But isn't that because of the fact that political parties have actually, or in their original makeup, we say that they must be ideology based, whether you are based on the ideology of capitalism, whether you're based on the ideology of socialism, whether you're saying that what we need to do is, help people come together. So it doesn't matter who comes through the doors of the political party. They know that this is what we are after. But unfortunately, political parties, as an example, here are used as a political tool for political expediency. It is, I will form a political party, and all my cronies or my posse, as it were, around me will then, just follow in my, and we can do it for this purpose. Or if I've been kicked out of one party, I'm going to go and register another one so that somebody can then join me. But ideologically based political parties, unfortunately, don't exist to the extent for which they were originally created to. And that's why we have the mess that we have later. So you can put anybody in there so long as they're subservient to you, but to chase an agenda, which is saying, let the economy work for the people, put money in the hands of people, for example, we lose it because we're chasing an individual.
Yeah, that's true. There are only two political parties at the beginning of time, KADU and KANU, because at least they stood for certain unique constituencies. KANU was talking of unitary government, and KADU was talking of devolved system of government, although the devolution at that time was about the regions, not about the counties that we have today. So they were clear at that particular time. But the rest of the parties have been either grafted around an individual or a group of tribes coming up together against the other group of tribes. The study that I did, and I'm happy to announce, is that when I did a study on 54 countries of Africa, there are only 2 countries with a political party worth mentioning, Tanzania and South Africa. And in Tanzania, of course, it has become monolithic today that CCM is going to win the next election because the government and CCM have been made to be one. Because the provincial commissioner or the regional commissioner is almost the head of the party in that particular region and also is the administrator. The other place where I found a bit some semblance of political system was in Botswana. And in Botswana, it is because it is done around the chiefs. so that like the UDC that is in power today is some amalgamation of certain chieftaincies that came together to support the current president to defeat the former president, Masisi. The Boko, I think they call him, Gideon Boko, to defeat President Masisi. So those are the two places. In other places, it's just monolithic. Like in Uganda, it is something unique.
But remember, there's something unique again about these countries that you speak of. Botswana is a population, first of all.
Yes.
And it's one community.
Yeah.
How many languages do they speak there?
Botswana.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So it isn't difficult.
Yeah.
Tanzania, Nyerere ensured that those 120 tribes...
123. Yeah.
was not the issue.
Yes.
The language unified all of them.
Kiswahili.
And they diminished the significance of tribes. And then they did something else. Presidents actually leave power to the next person.
Yes.
It sounds like a miracle.
On this continent, it's a huge miracle.
Yeah.
We followed after them, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
And it is now the norm. These retired presidents are still in the party.
Yeah.
And they still have a role.
Yes.
So you actually find that there is a check and balance that we don't have. They do. Now, if you look at what it is that we started off with and what we had a chance to do something very, very unique on two occasions. One, when President Moi said, guys, why don't we just go this multi-party thing?
Yes.
A door opened, not a window, a door opened.
Yes.
And in 2002, that door was still open. We shut it.
Yes.
We have another opportunity now.
Yes.
Because we are seeing the full culmination of what it is we've been doing all these years. And we are seeing, I don't blame William Ruto for a single thing.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't.
Yeah.
If there's someone who manifests what we have become as a nation in terms of politics, it's William Ruto.
Yes. He's a good student.
Yeah, so you look at William Ruto and you realize this is what Kenyans have become. We see it because he's the president, and the things he does are the things we all do.
Yes.
The way he goes about his business is how we all go about our business.
Yeah. Muga, you are so right, because when you look at social media, so various WhatsApp groups, because at times my wife assists me to look at the Kikuyu WhatsApp groups because she understands the language. I look at the Kalenjin because I know the language. So at the end of the day, when we compare the notes from the WhatsApp from Mount Kenya and the WhatsApp from Kalenjin, the same. The same. Basically, they are responding to the president. It's only that the others are responding from the negative side, and the others are supporting him, regardless of the decision he has made. Yeah.
How do we then look at what we've seen? It could be a trend, but if we want to look at the last 15 years, okay, let's say the last 12 years, because we're into 2 years of this new administration and into 10 years of a previous one where the current president actually was the deputy president. But there always seems that you start off well, and then there's an issue between yourself and your deputy, who one would have assumed that you ran with on a similar, on the same ticket.
Yeah, same ticket, yeah.
And you said, these are our goals, these are our desires, this is what we want. But then you fall off at some point. It didn't take too long for the current president and his immediate former to fall off.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here when we say that there is a unified government, in quotes, but then the lights suddenly come on?
The challenge, with the risk of repeating myself, is that we don't build institutions. We graft our ideas around individuals, and we seem to trust individuals more than institutions. If we had to really have a 3 years manifesto owned by the party itself, because even the manifesto of UDA, I was in UDA at some stage, was not fully owned by the party. It was just some amalgamation of things, including the bottom-up. Nobody could explain to you, how do you improve on the issue of bottom-up? How do you ensure that there is a value chain that starts from the bottom up to the top? What do you do about those who are in the middle of the pyramid, who are at the top of the pyramid? Because all the pyramids must remain the same. There are those at the top, there are those at the bottom, there are those in the middle, and therefore as you move up, you must make sure that you ensure that when you are coming from the bottom, you don't suffocate me in the middle. And if I'm in the middle, then I move towards the apex of the pyramid. And also the person at the apex of the pyramid does not feel threatened by people coming up from the bottom. This is the whole issue. People don't own the documents they produce before every election. Yeah.
It's like the only population we have in this country who seem to have something positive to say and contribute to what they don't like about the country. And it's not an indictment on the president, it's an indictment on the president and what he represents, and those who are the president's ilk. If you're in that particular age group, you are under indictment. What the Gen Zs are saying is there's a generation that has misrepresented them. And that generation is personified in the president. And everything that they stand for is the very thing they're saying, this we cannot continue with. Because it is not possible for someone to amalgamate the sort of power I hear people claiming William Ruto has without acquiescence. People accept. It's not as though there was a gun to their heads. No. They were induced.
If they were not comfortable with it, do you think, though, that they would be able to say no? I mean, I don't see anybody saying no. If anything, when we see with these nominations, where people are nominated, left, right, and center, we see them going on social media and saying, "Oh, it was with great honor and gratitude that I accept the nomination made by His Excellency the President. I will do my best." We don't see anybody saying, "Actually, you know what? I'm not the right fit for this," except in the case of the appointments for. Why wouldn't we say no?
There are a few cases. There is was it called Nanike Mose or who? The guy was appointed, former MP was appointed to go to Ghana.
Yes.
He said no.
Yes.
Of course, this lady, might have also said no for other reasons. But the other one did not have a job, but he said no. I hope we'll have more people saying no. And we'll have more people resigning when they feel the position is not tenable. I would have expected Justin Muturi, who is a very good friend of mine, incidentally, to have resigned by now. Because he has only two ways. If he doesn't resign, they will impeach him or they will sack him.
It will be interesting to see how things go. One would hope that conscience would play on the minds of people. Kipruto, Arap, Kirwa, thank you for always being here when the call is and for keeping these conversations alive. They need to continue. Asante sana.
It's my pleasure.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.